history, and one day we will all be history. I remind individuals, this microphone has a history too. When I'm finished with it, you'll see that the history was I spoke and passed it to Dr. Howard King. Just a word or two about myself. I'll be as brief as possible. This whole American Dilemma, American Denial piece is very sensitive to me. It makes me sad because I've lived a whole lot of it. Just for reference, not that you care, I'm not ancient yet, but I was born in North Carolina on the St. Augustine College campus because it was one of two places I could be born. Otherwise, I needed a midwife. So that was always something that I remembered. And I still have 2 birth dates because it didn't matter if my birth date was recorded accurately. I can go further by indicating that I did march once in 1962 with CORE. I attended a segregated school for a while in Cary, North Carolina, watching my uncle, my aunts, and other relatives being treated in disrespectful manners. And the young lady who went to Princeton University struck a nerve because that is where I did my graduate work. And I finished up there, I left there in 1973 before going to the University of Connecticut. Yet she was speaking about the 1990s. Let me just say that there are lots of good people at Princeton University, but it only takes 1 or 2 to make your experience a very bad one. You saw a picture of Old Nassau Hall. That was what was shown at Princeton University. A couple more things about myself for what it's worth so that you can understand why I say what I do say. I'm trying to be very objective, but the subjective reality of human nature sometimes slips in. But I will try to be objective and open-minded, though it is difficult to do so. Again, I was trained as a historian who has focused upon social movements, psychohistory, that's why this is so close to me as well. The history of race, protest, and violence, interdisciplinary history, and I spent some time studying Russian history. And not being boastful at all, but I spent time with Kenneth Clark, the man who, along with Mamie Clark, did doll studies. He was at the Metropolitan Applied Research Center when I was doing my research, and when I was at Columbia University as a dean, a member of the history department before coming to Hampton University. I also spent time with Dr. John Hope Franklin, whose son is at the African American History and Cultural Museum in Washington, D.C. Also spent time with Jack Greenberg, the fellow who worked in the Brown case. And I do have to say this, there were a combination of cases wrapped up, as you saw in the film, the Brown case, Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas. The whole movement to desegregate schools and show that segregation led to unequal education started in Georgia. It started in Georgia. I want you to keep that in mind. And it worked its way up so that Linda Brown's case was the lead case. Again, Jack Greenberg passed away last October. He was one of the deans along with me at Columbia University. Also, I want you all to keep in mind that others who have focused upon Gunnar Myrdal's work, quotes around Gunnar Myrdal's work, and I'll tell you why, I'm not being negative, included a review by Ralph Ellison, who I got to spend time with at Columbia University, author of Invisible Man, etc. And if you really want to see a very balanced overview in a review of American Dilemma, seek that one which was reviewed by Ralph Ellison in 1944. Another great man, and I was humbled to be in the presence of all of those individuals. American Dilemma, the book is 2 volumes. You need to know that. And one thing that troubles me is they never seem to focus upon the information after the colon. It's An American Dilemma. This is the title, the full title. An American Dilemma, The Negro Problem and Modern Democracy. That's the full title. You notice you didn't see it? But that's the full title of that 2-volume work. I also want to stress here, nothing meant to be negative, There were over 50 African American scholars who worked with him, including Du Bois. Did you see Du Bois in the film?
Yeah.
He was standing there with Boulevard Du Bois.
I saw him.
E. Franklin Frazier. I can go on and mention there were women there as well. Ralph Bunche, of course, he and Gunnar Myrdal had the smoking issues in common. I think they hastened their illnesses by smoking themselves to death. You saw he always had a cigarette. So did Ralph Bunche. So did Langston Hughes, for that matter. Chain smokers put one out, started smoking another one. I like to humanize history. I want you to see the full context of it. As for me, I would put quotes around the word democracy. America is not a democracy. I don't want to upset anyone. America is a republic, right? Representatives who represent us, and we send them out to do various things. If it was a true democracy, one person would vote. You know what the result would have been, so I'm leaving that alone. All right? I'm not getting into that. I'm not here to be political. Again, democracy comes from the Greek word demos, meaning people, and kratia, meaning power. So it's people power. Let's look at it that way. And there's one thing that I want everyone to be mindful of tonight before I stop speaking here and pass the mic to my colleague, psychologist Dr. Howard King, is that there is a red herring out there that's smelling right now, and I'm not going to be taken in by it. I hope that Representative Bobby Scott will forgive me for focusing my thoughts along his thoughts, and that is that these are good thoughts. We're not going to be misled by what's going on right now. We have to remember the health care bill, budgets, economic situations as well. The smoke screen that's out there to divert individuals is very real, but don't be misled. You have to do all of these things at the same time. It's a balancing act. Don't lose sight of race. That's what we're talking about. You can't lose sight of that. That's a reality. I've lived it, and I'm living it. And we see what's going on in the country right now. And that's why I'm so sad at the same time that I know that I need to speak about it. And so let's hope that everyone gets a handle on their behavior. The other thing I want us to keep in mind is that there is a clear gap between ideology and reality. You know what the Declaration of Independence says. You know what the Constitution focuses upon. We know we've had many amendments to the Constitution, including the eradication of enslavement, the conferring of citizenship, and then the 15th Amendment, the right to vote. And then we had a voting rights movement, and now history is cyclical. We keep going around and around. It doesn't repeat itself exactly, but what else is new under the sun, as Solomon said? It isn't. It's very similar. So I'm reliving some of the same emotions, some of the same feelings. I've looked at the Civil War pretty closely. James McPherson was my advisor at Princeton. He is the premier historian of the Civil War, though I didn't focus on it in the way he wanted me to. I looked at other things. And I have met many individuals who think that they are going to, quote, take back their country. And I'm saying to myself, well, Native American Indians were here 12,000 plus years before the Jamestown Bunch. I say that jokingly, but seriously, before 1607. Yes. And then there are those who want to send me back to Africa, although part of me has to go to England probably, and another part probably has to go to Ireland. I'm all mixed up. I know that. I got them all in the woodpile. Send it to Bilbo, back to Africa, send them away, or sterilize them. I would say at this point. In the 1970s and 80s, you may not be aware, but there was the use of Depo-Provera. You've heard of that? Where African American women, unbeknownst to themselves, in many instances, were sterilized in hospitals after childbirth. And there were lawsuits. So it wasn't too far-fetched from what individuals were saying before. Let's just look at the sad reality of things, and it pains me to have to look at that. America has failed to live up to what? Its ideology, that all men are created, and women, what, free, equal, etc. It's jargon if you don't act upon it. It makes no sense at all, and troubles me greatly that we're living a lie. We think that we have truly embraced the American creed, which means what? Liberty, opportunity, equality. It's just lip service in many instances. I'm not going to make excuses for individuals who behave in various ways. That's not what I'm here to do. But I do have to state that I've had to deal with and still deal with the color of my skin. I see it every day. It doesn't matter how good I might be at something. And again, I'm not ancient, but my generation is the John Carlos generation. We ran with and against each other. Mexico City, you've been to the museum, John Carlos, my buddy. Vinnie Matthews, 1976, got kicked out of the Olympic Village. I wasn't quite fast enough to make the Olympic team, I didn't think, but at any rate, I was hanging out there. So I'm going to turn it over to Brother Dr. Howard King. And we want to field as many questions as you have. And again, the mind is an interesting entity. Again, when you look at psychohistory, I have looked at that with individuals, and the human being is very complex. You feel one way one moment, and another way the next, am I correct? And I just can't in any way say that this is the way someone is. So we'll move forward, and hope I haven't talked too long. Forgive me if I have, but I just wanted to give you context. And the last thing I'll say is that this whole racial piece that you see happening here, which should not overshadow the other things that we have to do, that whole piece goes way back. It goes back to the pseudoscience of the 19th century, the mudsill theory, Dysynthesia aethiopica, saying that Negroes had, quotes around the word Negroes, diseases peculiar to them. It's just amazing that all of these things existed, and they measured the skull by determining how many marbles could be put in that skull, determine how intelligent you were. And you have all this talk about the party of Lincoln. That's fine, I'm a historian. The party of Lincoln went out of existence pretty much by the time Grant got into office, after the assassination of Lincoln, the arrival of Andrew Johnson, and then of course Ulysses S. Grant. And then the South was turned loose, if you will, with the Compromise of 1877 to get Rutherford, called Rutherford B. Hayes, elected. And so then you had the redevelopment, or the growth once again, of Jim Crow in no uncertain terms. Turn of the century, the lynching bees, you saw the Chicago, the East St. Louis riot, and I studied with L.A. Grudwick, who's the premier scholar, sociologist who focused upon the East Riot of East St. Louis. The lynching bees, we haven't even begun to look at those things. And you just see a pattern that goes on and on and on. So it has a very long history from the time that you had the triculture that developed Native American Indians here, European Americans, and then Africans. And that's what we're focusing on as well right now. The arrival in on August 25th, 1619, of the first Africans to English North America. Thank you for bearing with me. There's so much more I want to say, but my wife is here and I think I should be quiet.